So Texas Carry historical impact in the '84 session, just a little history lesson. In 1995, the world was supposed to end for the first time. How many people know who Jerry Patterson is? Jerry Patterson is what we call the godfather of the CHL. He was then a senator. He passed SB 60 in 1995, and that bill only had 2 signatures. The companion bill in the House, HB 72, only had 23 signatures. Notice I'm saying only, and I'm emphasizing that. Let's fast forward. I don't have 2011 in there, but I can tell you that in 2011, it had less than 20 signatures. George Lavender filed the open carry bill in 2011 for the first time. In 2013, HB 700 again, filed by George Lavender, only had 22 signatures in the House, and there was no Senate-sponsored bill. What did 2015 look like with Texas Carry at the helm? HB 910, which was signed into law, had a whopping 85 signatures. It is a huge amount of signatures for any bill. We're not talking about how they vote. They're all willing to vote if it gets that far, but if you actually get them to sign on to the bill, that is huge. We had over 200 meetings up there. I spent 16 hours a day up there trying to drive this. I just wouldn't go away. I'm like, look, I know how you're going to vote. If you don't sign onto the bill, I'm going to communicate that you're opposed. If you truly support this, put your name. So it was kind of interesting because when our team met in October, when I set the goal for Texas Carry, the Texas Carry board met, and I said, I'm setting the goal at 80. Was it 80 or 85? 80. And I was like, are you crazy? You're never going to get that many. I'm like, we're going to get it. And we announced it. And everybody said, you are never going to get that. Have you seen what the last bill's got? Have you seen how hard it is to get anything done? I'm like, we're going to get it. Y'all should have seen me at 78. I was about to have a heart attack. And guess whose doors I was beating down? Right? I mean, I got a Democrat to co-sponsor the bill. Representative Ken. Okay? I was beating down Republicans' door. There was like 7 or 8 Republicans that hadn't signed on yet. And finally, when we hit that 80, then the other 5 Republicans that knew they were about to get run over by the train decided to get on. I can't really take credit for those guys. All right, so covering the new open carry law. We're going to cover who can open carry. We're going to define open carry. We're going to talk about holster requirements. We're going to talk about retention just briefly. We're going to talk about prohibited places, open versus conceal. We're going to talk about the 30.07 sign addition. We're going to talk about a sign violation change. We're going to talk about open carrying in a vehicle. We're going to talk about training changes. Then we're going to talk about interacting with law enforcement. I leave that last so I don't get shot before the end of it, right? How many CHL instructors do I have? Any in here? Okay, so we don't need to talk about the training changes because y'all already got them all. They waited till the very last second to get it to you, but you have it now. So there's not much you're going to learn from that. All right, so obviously open carry went into effect January the 1st of 2016. All right, so we're going to define open carry. This is a very, very important definition. The definition of open carry, the representatives, they all voted on it. So, let me back up a little bit. All right. So, unlawful carry warning, folks. A partially or wholly visible handgun that is carried on or about the license holder that is not in a shoulder or belt holster can result in unlawful carry by a license holder, which is a Class A misdemeanor. Bad things happen. Let me explain what this means. I can't come into your county and go to your county park in my skimpy jogging shorts and go running through your park with an ankle holster on. I'm going to be arrested for two things: indecent exposure and unlawful carry. Okay? You do not want to see me in skimpy jogging shorts. Trust me. It must be in a shoulder or belt holster. Okay? We'll talk about holsters. If anybody has a question about holster, we'll get into that in a minute. So, this was an unintended consequence, an unintended natural consequence. Open carrying a vehicle. This was never talked about in the session by us, by the legislature, by the opposition, by law enforcement. Nobody talked about it. It just happened naturally through the progression of the bill. It wasn't until after it was passed that I even clicked to what had happened. This is in the Texas Penal Code 4602. This is the new law. A person commits an offense if the person intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly, I want everybody to listen, carries on or about. This has always been the law. On or about his or her person a handgun in a motor vehicle or watercraft that is owned by the person or under the person's control at any time in which the handgun is in plain view, unless the person is licensed to carry the handgun under subchapter ETX4L Government Code and the handgun is carried in a shoulder or belt holster. Why am I telling you all of this? I can take this holster with my gun in it off of my belt and I can set it on my dash. I can set it in my seat. It can be visible. The requirement is if it's on or about my person, it must be in this holster in my car if it's in plain view. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? If it comes out of this holster, please do not put it in your cup holder. You guessed. We had an arrest in Harris County because some guy took his gun out of his holster and put it in his cup holder and he got pulled over. Now, he didn't know, because if he knew, he would have covered it up. But he went to jail for unlawful carry because it wasn't in a holster. So yes, you can lay your gun in your seat if you're a license holder and it's in a holster, a shoulder or belt holster. Okay? It has to be concealed at that point.
Okay.
So for those that don't have a CHL, you can carry in your car. You don't have to have a license to carry in your car. It just has to be out of plain view. Okay? All right. So obviously by now, open carry holster requirements. If the handgun is partially or wholly visible, it must be in a shoulder or belt holster. There are no retention requirements. Now, which one of our sheriffs are the most experienced? Who's got the most years?
We've got about 7 now.
How many? 38 years each. So we have a total of 76 years of experience. Let's give those guys a hand. In your 38 years, how many bad guys have you arrested with a gun that were wearing a holster? Zero! That's all the answer I get. I had a 56 veteran tell me zero. So let's talk about holsters a minute. And I hope the sheriffs will take this to their deputies. There's a reason why we put holsters in the law. Because the very first thing it does is differentiate you from a turd. They want to be all gangster and carry in their waistband. You know, they do not carry in a holster, and there's a reason they don't carry in a holster. They want to be able to separate themselves from the gun very quickly if they need to. They can't do that if they're wearing a holster. I don't have a gun, what's the holster? Right? So there's a reason we put holsters. So please don't get hung up on what is a shoulder or belt holster. Please don't do that. Shoulder holders are pretty easy, but people are getting hung up on belt holsters. All right? Don't get hung up. If it's designed to go on your waist, it's a belt holster. Okay? Not a big deal. I've had some issues with that across the state. We shouldn't. There's no retention requirements. Now I'm going to say this.